Hello and welcome to How to Fail. This is the podcast that believes a fail is simply a first attempt in learning. Before we get onto this episode, please do remember to like, subscribe and follow so that you never miss a single conversation.
But it was only until probably I think I left school at like 16. I was like, oh, this thing is called dyslexia. I find it hard to listen to praise about myself. I find it very, very hard.
How bad did it get, this debt spiral? My guest today was born in Lambeth, South London. His parents separated when he was 5, and he and his 2 older sisters were primarily raised on a council estate by his mum. He struggled at school, but found refuge in drama and making his classmates laugh. When he started taking his comedy online, uploading satirical sketches of London geezers and British MCs to Snapchat and Instagram, they went viral, and Mo Gilligan's career path was set. Soon he was performing sell-out stand-up tours, and by 2018 had migrated onto television with Channel 4's late-night entertainment show, The Big Nasty. In 2019, he fronted his own format, The Lateish Show with Mo Gilligan, which won him the first of 3 BAFTAs. He was so chuffed, he named his cockapoo Baffy. Netflix specials followed, as did world tours, primetime TV and a podcast. Now, in 2026, Gilligan is launching the biggest year of his career to date, with a global tour, a major new partnership with Netflix, and a feature documentary which will offer a glimpse behind the scenes of the 37-year-old who cites his comedy heroes as Dave Chappelle and Lee Evans. It's not bad for someone still 3 years shy of his 40th birthday, and for whom success was never guaranteed. Just 10 years ago, Gilligan was broke and grappling with credit card debt, taking every retail job he could just to make ends meet. I always worked in retail, Primark, the Apple Store, Reese, he recalls. It's all about how you sell the product to them. When you do stand-up, it's like selling a piece of clothing, except that you're selling yourself. Mo Gilligan, welcome to How to Fail.
Oh, wow, that was so nice. Hearing it all back, and I was like, oh, wow, like I've done all that stuff, and that is me, because it's quite easy to forget a little bit.
You were
I think,
able to
yeah.
reflect.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for being so appreciative.
No.
Well, it's interesting that, because reflection is something that you struggle with, and it pertains to one of your failures, but we'll come on to that later.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with you selling yourself.
Mm.
So if you're an item of clothing
Yeah.
in Reese, how are you going to sell yourself to me? What is it that makes Mo Gilligan Mo Gilligan?
I think it's a combination of things. I feel like you need a bit of charisma. I think charisma is definitely the thing that gets people's attention. I feel like you can make anything, can add a bit of charisma and a bit of jazz to it, whether it is a black suit, but you make it look cool with a black shirt, and then you open up the tie and you do a black pocket square. So already you're like, oh, this is all black, but I see these little details in it. And I feel like that's what I've always tried to add to whatever I try to do. Do you know what I mean? Like when it comes to comedy, I want to make people laugh, but I also love a bit of music. I'm not a musician, but I want to add that little jazz to it just to make something so simple just seem so seamless and quite fun. Transparency, I feel like when I worked in retail, the more I was transparent with a customer, the more they would buy. And I think that's how people buy into you. You know, the more I'd have customers in some of the places I worked at, and they'd say, oh, I really want to get this item. And I'd be like, listen, I'll be honest, man. This one's basically the same, it's half the price. And they sit there and go, what? Are you serious? Like, you shouldn't say that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here to give you what you've come in for, and that's just customer service. That's all I do. And I think it's the same with my stand-up. I've always tried to be transparent with my audience when I'm on stage. When I talk about my special, I talk about going to LA, and I was like, whoa, I'm in LA, here I am. But then quickly you're like, I don't know if I can fit into this mold. I don't know if I'm cool enough, because you have to be very cool, and there's the parties, and you have to be great at networking and going to something. And yes, I'm great on stage when it comes to my craft and writing material, but telling me to go in a room and go and network with everyone by force. I can't do that. I just want to just talk to people. Hey, what's up? What'd you do? Hey, how you finding the event? So I think transparency is always in there. And then lastly, I guess it's just old-fashioned charm. It's the smallest thing. I learned it actually weirdly when I worked in Jo Malone. Jo Malone, when we used to sell a product, they used to put this tissue paper in and spritz it. And it was like so jazzy. But then you put it in and you tie the bow, and customers would be like, "Why'd you do that?" And it was like, so what we'd do is, let's say they bought a candle which is like lime basil mandarin. So you'd get that scent and you spray it on there, you put it in a bag, you stuff it and put a bow on it. And then customers say, why do you spritz it with that? It's like, because when you open it, you know what it smells like straight away. And that things like that used to make me sit and go, wow, that's so charming. That's so nice to do for a customer. You don't have to. But those little things I always wanted to implement just within myself, but also what I do on stage, have a bit of charm. I have this segment when I jump on the stage and I ask people where they're from, and I say, I need single guys, because single guys don't ever make noise. And there's always one guy who goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, who are you? What's your name? And I talk to him and I say, listen, I hope you enjoy the rest of your show, and throughout the rest of the show, like, all the drinks are on me tonight. So it's about making someone feel really cool and special in that moment, because I think the audience see it as like, oh, he's gonna get him. But it's like a Uno reverse. He's like, I am gonna get him, but I'm gonna make him feel like the coolest person in the room. And it goes back to retail, like selling yourself. You've bought this item and now you feel like $1 million. Hopefully you'll then go back and tell your friends and say, oh man, I met this guy and, you know, he said to put the pocket square and open the button. Oh, he's just mad cool. And I think I learned a lot of that, I'd probably say, in retail as well.
That is such an amazing answer. It was like you had
Sorry, it was a bit long. Was it a bit long?
You know, it was amazing, because when I was thinking of what my first question was going to be, I was like, that's quite a tough one. You just nailed it. But that reminds me of something that I read that you said about performing comedy to the Black community. And I think you were asked a question about whether you sort of poke jabs at the audience, and you said, no. Because my community, they get dressed up nice to come out, and I would never disrespect them like that. I thought that was so interesting.
Oh yeah, I think my audience are predominantly a working class audience. I know they're the audience who wait a long time to come to shows. They are like, oh, I've got a babysitter. You know, Shanice got her nails done. Tyron got his hair cut, and we planned to come to this event. We even got a meal before. I feel like I'll be doing that audience a disservice going out there and being like, hey, like, let me get you, because that's just never where I've found my joy on stage. Don't get me wrong, there's sometimes I've done this craft and there is someone who says something and I'm like, well, I've got to say something back. It's just the art of stand-up. It goes back to the old-fashioned, like, you know, you're the jester performing to the king a little bit. You know, if your audience see that you can't handle the pressure, if someone says something, then it's like, shroop, off with your head. So I have to really prove to the audience that, oh, no, there's still a boundary here, but also I really want to make people feel cool. I think it's the nicest feeling ever, as opposed to like, well, if he's going to get you, he might get us. So let's not look at him. So I've always shied away from being a comedian that just wants to poke fun at my audience.
Let's talk about where your comedy started, because it brings us to your first failure.
Yeah.
Which is dyslexia, but specifically asking for help in school because you didn't realise that's what you had. And that's sort of, my understanding is, what led you into wanting to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Tell us about school, first of all. I'm so excited I get to speak to you because I live in Lambeth and I've also interviewed Ashley Walters, who I know is part of your story. So tell us about school and what that was like for you.
School was great. I went to a really good primary school, which is Dog Kennel Hill. So diverse. Like, when I think of it now, I grew up with kids of all backgrounds, faiths, religions. And it helped because my mum worked there as well. So
What did she do?
So my mum was a teaching assistant, but all the kids would come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, your mum's so cool, man." And the older kids would be like, "Hey, you all right? Your mom? Oh yeah, I know your mum's cool, man." And that was like oh wow, man, like people really like that. You know, on a Saturday, people would see my mum and just want to say hi. You know, the kids would be like, "Hi, hello, yeah, hello, Mrs. Gilligan," and I'll be like, "Yeah, that's my mum." Like, I definitely had learning difficulties at that time as well. I didn't really know I did. I used to just talk. And it's probably until I probably got about, I'd say about 8, 9, when the teacher then would say, yeah, you've got to sit on this table. And everyone else on the table had learning difficulties. I think that was the first time I really knew. Like, I knew that I kind of needed help. And then as I got a little bit older, I would then sit with a helper who sits with us. He would sit with us and all the other children needed help. And that was like my first indication of like, oh, I want to be on that table. Them lot are doing the work by themselves. But we kind of have like a childminder on our table a little bit. But I'd always give credit to a primary school teacher that I had called Miss Stiett. She had a son who had a disability. So when it came to dyslexia, she was great at having learning and teaching methods that was different I'd never seen before. It was incorporating colors, and I always remember she used to tell we'd have this story time. And I think that was the beginning of my like creativity, because it was towards, we'd have this, it was called silent reading. And it was like, okay, it's silent reading, everyone must. And I was like, I want to talk, man. I want to like tell this Biff, Chip and Kipper story to someone I'm sitting next to. But I never forget, she used to do this thing towards the end of the lesson, and she'd read a book and she'd tell a story. And it was great because I started learning about so many books, but it was the way she would act out the characters and the imagination. And that for me as a kid was like, oh, this is really cool. There is a book it might be called The Railway Children, I think. And I remember her telling us that book, but she would act out the voices and everything. And I was like, wow, this is so insightful, the way that you're turning this into a thing. And it's interesting how once I'd got to secondary school, you get a little bit more freedom now. And I've got some new friends. I think early on, I then got to, it's like, well, I've got art. I do like a bit of art, but I like talking and I like having a laugh with my friend Troy that I sit next to. And Troy is quite like me. That freedom mixed with the stories of like a Miss Stiett who tells these vivid, these stories from a book. You bring that together, and it was this me wanting to entertain people, where I can talk and I think that's where the neglect of not wanting to learn subjects I just wasn't interested in. I think anything I was interested in, I was there for it.
Did you know you had dyslexia then?
No. So I only really knew what dyslexia was once I'd left school, and I was like, oh, there's a thing for this. Wow. Because other than that, it was just called learning difficulties. So I used to go to this place in my school, which was for kids who had learning difficulties. But it was also this hub where if you got sent out, you could go in there and be like, oh, miss, I got sent out. And they'd be like, oh, it's all right. You can go on the computer. So it was like, all right. So sometimes you'd be like, I don't really want to learn French, man. Because it was a lot of the teaching assistants who was in this learning center. It was like its own room. And they were so chill. It just felt like you was in this room and it was just like all your mum's friends. You'd be like, you're right, Mo, how are you? Oh man, I got kicked out of French, man. You'd be like, it's all right. Go on Google if you want. Really? And you just go on Google Images and type Lamborghinis, like, and then you'd be in there with all the other kids that clearly had learning difficulties, and some of them might show it with being disruptive in class. You might be talking, you might be a student who, was going through something, but a lot of the teachers didn't have the patience, so they said, listen, get out. And we'd all just end up there in this hub of, but it was only until probably, I think I left school at like 16. I was like, oh, this thing is called dyslexia. I didn't know that when I was 14.
The reason that I mentioned Ashley Walters is because you were at Pimlico Academy.
Yeah, he went to my school,
And
yeah.
that's where he went to.
Yeah.
And you both had the same drama teacher.
That's right, yeah, Miss Simpson, yeah.
Tell us about Miss Simpson and the impact she had on you.
Oh, Miss Simpson's incredible. She is a drama teacher who felt like she knew the students. Like, and I'm not saying that the other teachers didn't, because there's some other great teachers in the school. Mr. Fern, he was our form tutor, our art teacher. He was just like mad cool, just like so relaxed. But Miss Simpson was different because it felt like she knew the kids' environments and she knew what they could excel in. And she wouldn't force the kids who didn't want to do the lessons to do it. It was like, oh, like if you don't want to do drama, that's okay. But maybe you could help of setting up a scene. How about that? And that's showing a child that like, hey, you know you're directing, but they don't know that. You don't know that when you're 13, 14. She always would just give everyone a job. And it was the first teacher that really like planted a seed in me at a really young age, and she held me back. We'd performed in our hall for one lesson. I used to love doing any of the plays where I could be like a character. One of my early inspirations was Robin Williams. I thought Robin Williams with like voices and impressions and Jim Carrey, they were like my two favorites. And I'd probably say Eddie Murphy. And I used to love doing anything that was like a character or, especially because we got to get the mats out. So if there was like a time to get the mats out, it was like, all right, so you're going to hit me and I'm just going to fall. And that's going to be the thing that I get to do. Everyone got to leave in this one lesson. It was like, okay, cool, guys, go to lunch. And she said, oh, wait, I want to speak to you. And I thought, I'm in trouble. And she said, look, Mo, you're about to choose your subjects for GCSE. And I think you should really look at choosing drama. And I was like, oh. I said, I really like drama. And she's like, yeah, you're very, very good at it. But also, like, I feel like you have something with this and you should look at pursuing it. And that was the first teacher that had told me, like, and said, you're really good at this. And that moment has never left me. I remember it very vividly. I really liked it. I was just buzzing. I'll never forget it. And yeah, she is the reason why I am in the place where I am right now, because I'd never had anyone tell me that before.
You were good at something.
It definitely changed my life, because it was a point in my life where I wasn't good at maths, wasn't good at English, didn't have the confidence of a child when it came to education, where I felt like, oh, I'm smart. I didn't. I've always felt like I'm quite bright and I was all switched on, but at that age, I never felt like, oh, I'm like a smart kid too. It was like you're either academically smart or other. That was like the first moment of feeling like, oh, I belong. I don't have to just be book smart.
Teachers can be superheroes, and I think it's so special that you've paid tribute to two of them there. I'm also interested in your parents.
Yeah.
And your childhood away from school. We started off this conversation talking about charm.
Yeah.
And you chatted about your mum, but it sounds like your dad was very charming too.
Yeah, my dad is very smart. He's a very smart man. Like I'm talking like book knowledge smart. He's very confident, but also like, I think when it comes to like things like fitness, I always get that from my dad, because he used to do a lot of long distance running, and people would just see my dad in around like southeast or southwest London, because he'd wrap up his locks, he'd put on like a Nike tracksuit, and I say, yeah, tracksuit, and you're talking like 25, 30 degree heat, and you just see him running in South London, and people are like, yeah, I see your dad running. Yeah, but I definitely think I get my charm from my mum more so, because my mum was very, like, my mum is very charismatic, where my mum kind of talks to people like she knows them.
It sounds like a childhood safe in the knowledge that you were loved.
Yeah.
But was it was it safe in other ways?
Yeah, like I lived in an area where everyone was kind of in the same environment. So a lot of working class families on a big council estate, and you had a lot of other council estates just next to it, basically. and in and around the area. And yeah, everyone kind of looked out for each other.
And what is fatherhood like for you now?
Oh, fatherhood is great. Fatherhood is so, it's like, it's the one part of life I never knew about until you experience it. No one can tell you. You can't learn it in a book. It is experiencing it in real time. I think knowing that I am my children's universe. Like, they learn from me, they see it from me.
That's beautiful.
When they grow up, it's whatever I tell them and they experience that they're only going to see from me. And I think that is such a gift that I didn't know I needed to have. And it's interesting with like my children where, you know, my daughter's, she's so young, she's like 6 months. But like, like,
Oh, congratulations.
oh, thank you. Like her thing is just touching my beard. And there used to be a time where I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, I got to come. And now I just don't care. I just like, she just wants to just touch it until she can grab it. That's all she wants to do. And it realized you're like, well, this is what this is for her to just touch daddy's beard. Do you know what I mean? And like my son he just turned 2 and he's at an age where like he's kind of, you know, he's talking and stuff, but, you know, went to take him to get his haircut for the first time last week. And you know, the barbershop is a place that I spent many a Saturdays where my mum would do a shop and leave me there. And I'm like, oh, I'm here with all the grown folk and taking my son to get his haircut. And even before going in the shop, he was like, oh, no, I'm scared. I'm like, oh, okay. So just sitting with him and seeing him experiencing, you know, the barbershop essentially, which is a hub for, you know, the Black male community where as a child, you hear conversations that you're like, oh, wow, these are some grown conversations, but everyone gets treated the same once you're in the chair. You can be an elderly man, you still get a haircut. You be a young kid, you still get your haircut. And seeing him scared, but also knowing he just, you know, grabbed onto me and I'm his universe. I'm bringing him into my universe. So he's experiencing this in real time. And it's just those little like gifts of life that you sit there and you go, wow, this is an exciting moment in, you know, you get to experience it. I don't know. For me, it's like an out of body experience. If you ever watch like a wildlife documentary and you see the elephant going to the water hole for the first time and it gets stuck and it's like, it's all right because the mum elephant or the dad elephant knows how to get it out, but this elephant doesn't know yet. And it's like, that elephant, this is the universe and I'm going to show you how to do this and you'll learn in real time. So the next time it happens. And I think that's what I really enjoy about fatherhood at the moment. I really, really, really enjoy that.
Oh,
yeah.
That's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
It really is. It's very moving. Your second failure is not learning about money as a teenager.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
and where that led you to. So tell us about this, Mo. Sorry for the seamless link from like the beauty of fatherhood to credit card debt. So you left school at 16.
Yeah.
And was it after that you started getting into money trouble?
No, I think at 16 I'd stayed at school. I went to sixth form, which was great. Sixth form, we had this thing called EMA, so you get a little bit of money, £30 every week. And then college. And then once I'd left college, it was probably university that I'd get this, you know, I'd get the student loan. And I think because I stayed at home when I was at uni, I think if I would have got the experience of being on the campus and having to understand that I need a bit of money for my books and a bit of money to maybe go out and have a drink, and this is what it's like to be broke, I had the comfort of being at home. So when I got my student loan, I come from a mentality of being, I wouldn't say addicted, but it's definitely those shiny things that you're drawn into. It's like a magpie mentality of like, oh, I need that, that's shiny. And that's those materialistic things that you grow up never getting. But the minute you get money, that's the first thing you go straight to that. And that started when I was probably in uni, because the minute I got my student loan, the first day I got it, me and a friend of mine, Stephen, we went shopping. That was the first thing. We were like, oh my God, we got our money. Straight to Oxford Street. We went to every shop you could think of. And I just having bags of bags. And, you know, like now I'm at a place where if I ever get a lot of stuff and I go to a shop, I'm like, just chuck this all in one bag. Also, most of the time, I'm like, let's just get this all online anyway. But this was at a time where I was like, I've got a French Connection bag. I've got a H&M bag. You know what I mean? I got JD Sports. And I'm walking around. Yeah, it was just like fulfilling the things I couldn't have as a child. Of like, I want those Air Max 90s. I want to go in the shop and not really look at the price because I can just get that thing. And I think I wouldn't say it started from there, but the money management was definitely the origin story from that point, I'd probably say. I think being in the job of stand-up didn't help because when you first start, you get paid cash in hand, which is amazing when you first tell a joke and the promoter says, oh, great, thanks a lot, man. There's £50. And you said, oh my God, I've just earned this money in my hand from telling some material. But because the job is so volatile, where in your head you're being told you're going to get paid £200, and the day before the show the promoter says we didn't sell enough tickets, show's cancelled, and now you're like, oh, I kind of got a phone contract out though, and I kind of needed that money, and there's nothing you can do. You can't. There's no union. You just say, all right, well, can you get me for the next one? When you've got to go to a show and you are in the middle section, you're only going to get paid £100, and £50 of that is going to be on a train ticket. The other £50 is for that phone bill for the last month that you was meant to get, but now you're behind. So I think the art form that I chose also doesn't help for money management. You can definitely go down a bit of a kind of black hole. So yeah, you then get a credit card. Yeah, and that just feels like free money. But you're like, it's not free because I should use this credit card for the emergencies of, I didn't get that gig where I was going to get £200, use a credit card, pay the phone bill. But again, it's like, well, didn't do that gig, use a credit card, can now get some trainers and pay the phone bill and worry about the rest later. And then I think you just end up playing catch up.
Also, I think because the career that you had chosen, I'm imagining there were very few role models that you could reach for and think, oh, well, that's how they did it. I mean, I don't know how many stand-up comics you actually knew. There wasn't anyone.
That's a great point, actually. I think stand-up is this illusion where you see it on stage and that's it. It's only now, probably the last 10 years, that it's documented how much some of the top 10 comedians earn. But I think it's always comedians don't really talk about that. They're not trying to be the 20 million a movie.
Yeah.
An actor. That's not something that's spoken about within the depths of comedy. It's like, no, your job is to be funny. Also, you have to dress down as a comic. I was also told that. It was like, no, don't dress up. You've got to give the appearance to your audience that, you can't be too flashy. But then I also had the black circuit where I came from, where it was like, no, you kind of have to be a bit flashy because you can't be raggedy.
Yeah.
Like you have to so I had, comics telling me, yeah, you want to wear a shirt and like some shoes. So then you're like, all right, I've got up my game. I've got to buy some shoes, get a shirt for my performance, some nice jeans, a t-shirt, at a time when you're like, I'm spent all my money on this outfit and I can't really wear it at the next one.
How bad did it get, this debt spiral?
It got bad in terms of, once I got the credit card, I didn't really understand the credit card. And plus I got a credit card which it was kind of aimed at someone like me. Do you know what I mean? When it's like, we're talking like, I don't know, the interest was something stupid. It was ridiculous, 250% APR or something like that. And you're like, oh, at the time, you're like, it's minor, man. It's only until a year it kicks in. But then I'd borrow money from like a money lender, which was super easy to do because, again, it's aimed at someone who doesn't have money. And then I'd borrow money from another lender to then borrow them, pay back the money. And then when I'd get money from a gig or a show, then I'd have to pay that money back out plus interest. So it wasn't bad in a sense that I was crippling in debt, but it was definitely playing catch up where you're like, I really need this show to come through. And it was just hoping, you're like, please don't let it snow. I remember once I was like, oh, it's going to snow. And it snowed and all my shows got cancelled. And you're like, oh man, I've missed out on £300. And that's at a time where I probably owed £300 back to like a money lender. So it's not, I never got into like, you know, the masses of debt, like 10 grand of worth of debt. But I was always big into things like trainers and a lot of streetwear fashion, places like Supreme and a ton of like Jordan crepes. And they're things that I've just like liked and collected. So it got to a place where it was just like, I've got to sell those nice trainers that I've always liked to make some money and pay back whoever I need to pay back, or I need to get to this gig and I don't have the money. So let me sell this really nice coat that I got because I can get the money back. So I did have an element of hustle at the same time, and not just, I need to borrow money. I need to also hustle in a sense of I'm going to camp out for these trainers because chances are they're probably going to be worth over £1,000. And that money, it's at that flip of they only cost £200. I can maybe make £1,000 for those trainers, pay back some of the debt to the credit lenders and still have money for myself. So yeah, it's like a level of hustle, but it's also not great at the same time. Like,
when was the first time you can remember not worrying about money?
So I was on the bus and I just finished probably the first leg of my tour. 2016 was when everything really, no, 2017 was when it happened. 2016 was like the spark of doing a video that went viral. But like 2017, everything happened so quick. I quit my job. I went to America for the first time for a brand partnership.
Sorry to interrupt. And the video that went viral, was it the MCs one that Drake?
Different types of MCs, yeah, that was the one. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So that went viral. You quit your job. Then
That went viral 2016, December of 2016. Still working in retail. Last place I was in was Levi. And that was just due to getting the chance of, you know, small opportunities. BBC One Extra was like, why don't you come in and do it's kind of like a demo to be a radio, and they train you how to use the desk. And I was going in there once a week. And that was like, that I could see that being my career path. Again, all the videos keep going viral, but I'm still working in retail. And I just said, look, can I change some of these dates? And they just wasn't having it, you know, the manager at the time. So I just said, look, I'm just going to quit. And it was definitely this moment of like, am I doing the right thing? Because part of me was like, if I'm going to do this, I have to do this. I can't have the comfort of having a retail job right now. But I just knew there was something that was going to happen for me. And I had this show that I used to do with my friends in Brixton in the Ritzy cinema upstairs. And it was mainly their show and I'd hosted it. And I put it on my social media. I was like, I'm going to be hosting this show. And for the first time, like it sold out. And my friends were like, the show sold out. Okay, well, let's like split the money. And I'd earned like £500 through just splitting the money with my friends. And I was like, wow, I've just earned a lot. So I started doing my own small comedy shows, which I was still doing that before. And then that sold out. And I was like, oh my God, like I've earned more than I used to when I was even working at retail. And these are just my small shows that I do in Shoreditch. And 2017, I went to a meeting with Live Nation, had an idea for the tour and how I wanted it to be and where we could go to and how we could grow it. And I was very transparent and being in those rooms of saying, look, I have an idea of how this can work. I'm not a social media act. I'm a stand-up comic. And they were like, cool, we've worked with social media people before, it doesn't really work. And I was like, trust me, I have this idea. Small places, we start off up and down and then we just see what happens. Tour went on sale. London sold out in like 2 minutes. And in my head, I was like, nah, it must be like a fake thing. Because I used to never believe that whole tour sold out 2 minutes. I was like, nah. Only now that I know it works, how it works, I get it. But that year, I had all this viral success, but I was still technically broke. I didn't have any money. And between the time of me putting the tour on and being on tour, that is the most brokest I've ever been. I couldn't put on any shows, didn't have any trainers to sell. it was like rock bottom. The worst financial place I think I've ever been. Even when I was in debt, I was still able to keep my head afloat. And I said to my manager, I was like, look, I'm doing all these shows. This is great, but I am so broke. And now the credit card debt is really starting to pile up. And it did actually at that point. And she was like, okay, cool. We see, because obviously like what we can do in terms of giving you like an advance. I say an advance, it was the tickets already sold. And through my main current account, and then I get this text which was like, oh, you are, I was basically level of my overdraft limit. And I was like, well, I never got this text before. Your overdraft limit is at 0. I got this text and I was like, what? It's always been like in the minus. And then I checked my account and I was like, oh my God. And it definitely felt like a Willy Wonka moment. Like I've got the golden ticket. And that was like, I'd say that was like my first big check.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't think I've definitely had money worries, but not since that time. It's never been as bad as it was when I was younger.
You talk a lot in your comedy about code switching, and you do it in a very funny way.
Oh, thank
Which is
you.
lucky, isn't it? Given you're a comedian. But obviously there is, as with all the greatest comedy, this serious underlying point. And I suppose I wanted to ask you how important it is for you to be a noticeably successful Black British male comic. All of those things at once.
It's a lot sometimes. There are times where I do have like this is a tiring job at times, because I've been doing this job for almost, in terms of on a mainstream platform anyway, just over 10 years. And sometimes it does feel hard because you still have to feel like you have to prove yourself in a place where you're like, oh, like, no, I've had my own show. And like, yeah, but I don't know if you can do the Brits. It's like, no, I've hosted live TV shows. Yeah, but I don't know if you can host a primetime show on BBC though. Is that, no, I've got a BAFTA. Yeah, but
got a free mate.
Yeah, and it does feel like you do definitely have to keep constantly proving yourself, because the minute I started getting success, it was almost this, yeah, but you're only there because you're ticking a box, essentially.
Who's saying that to you?
These are things that you would see online, if you get, like, for example, when you win a BAFTA, you'd get some people that would say, oh, yeah, but, he's ticking a box. That's why you've got to, and those things are sometimes hard to muster because you're like, no, like, I'm really good in my field, like, not even trying to hype myself up, but I put a lot of time and effort into the execution of something that feels so seamless and so effortless when it's displayed on television. And that is sometimes quite hard. There is also the pressure of being on, platform TV, knowing that you have to represent your community in a space that isn't always represented, but also you're in the forefront of mainstream television on a Saturday night where little boys and girls up and down the country are not seeing someone that feels like, oh my God, he looks like my dad or my uncle, or like he looks like my neighbor. Oh wow, I've not seen this on television. There is a lot of pressure that comes with that. But also sometimes I do lean into that pressure, because I think it is that pressure that is sometimes the fuel that lights the fire in me sometimes. Yeah, there are times where you do sit there and you're like, oh, I need to just chill out. I just want to have some time off and just chill out a little bit, because sometimes when you are doing a press run and, the first time going on the red carpet, and it was like, Mo, let me ask you, drill music and, knife crime, like, what do you think about that? And you're like,
wow,
what are you asking me this for, bruv?
Wow.
like, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting asked this, because I know any of the other counterparts that are on this show are not going to get asked that. But also knowing that I am also a voice for a community that doesn't also get their voices heard as well, that feels like a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it's also quite enriching as well to be on a show and be unapologetically myself. That's also the privilege that comes with the pressure.
Beautifully put. And I often think that the metric of true success is that ability to be yourself and show up as yourself in every single part of your
Mm.
life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you have had the most deserved and astonishing decade.
Oh, thank
It
you.
was a pleasure doing the research for this interview because I was like,
Oh, thanks a
wow,
lot.
I don't think I've ever had a triple BAFTA winner. But your third failure is
Mm.
such an interesting one, is almost your failure to appreciate those moments, as you put it, not appreciating my career breakthrough moment as it was happening,
Yeah.
almost because you were too busy, you were too driven.
Mm.
Tell us about that. Do you struggle with it still, that acknowledgement piece?
Yeah, I do a lot. I think I'm always trying to move on to the next one. And when is the next one and the next thing? I don't know where that comes from. I think maybe because, again, it's the pleasure of being myself. I don't have to put on a mask or pretend to be someone I'm not. It's just like I'm being myself. And I also want to take myself to this space and that space and that space and that space. And this is how I'm going to execute and do it. So I think that's why I don't enjoy those moments of reflection of, a big high, a big show, a success, a win at times. Only recently, I have had to really stop myself and say, no, Mo, like, enjoy that, man. You enjoyed that at the time. Um, I had that last year, actually. I had a show at the O2 and I was on a high for like 2 weeks, and that does not normally happen. Normally, it's like, oh, that show was great last night, and all right, we go back to the next one. So, I am trying my best to really live in the moment and be in the present. I don't dwell on the past much, but I'm trying my best to enjoy it more in the moment and really enjoy like those small moments that I've had in my career. I think that's why when you was saying the introduction, I was sitting there like, oh wow, that is hitting some string in my heart that I've not really taken the time to acknowledge and hear those things and reflect on them and say, oh wow, that is me. I find it hard to listen to praise about myself. I find it very, very hard. If someone says, oh, well done, you're really good. I'm like, yes, I've had it from my teacher, but I do find it a bit like, oh yeah, cool, thanks anyway. Anyway, as we were saying, I find it very, very hard to accept. I don't know where that comes from. Sometimes I've been in rooms. I remember we speaking a little bit about LA. I remember going to CAA once, the agents I used to have out there. I was going to visit my agent at the time. He's like, yeah, come in, the whole team want to meet you. And I was like, oh, great. And I, go into this room, walk in, it was this long board room, and they had a picture of me on the wall. And it's like, welcome Mo Gilligan to see it. And they had all these people around the table who do something different. And they're technically like your agent. It's like, hey, what's up? My name's Brad. I'm gonna be your literacy, your agent for publishing. And hey, what's up? Sports. I'm your guy if you want to get in like esports, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, love your stuff. And everyone's kind of telling me what they do, but then they also like, oh my God, I'm in scripting. I love your stuff. I work with like Jamie Dimitri. So funny, Staffless Flats. Such a pleasure to have you. You're so awesome. And I was sitting there like, it was so hard for me to take all this in one by one and see my picture and then sit next to my agent and they're like, so Mo, tell us about yourself. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. I've not been in this space before. And I just started shriveling up very slowly because it just felt like a bit too much. I don't know. I think there's definitely like a British thing in that as well.
Mm.
But also just hearing all these people one by one say something nice or praise me or someone be like, oh my God, dude, early stuff, a couple of cans, love that stuff. If you ever want to know like some social media stuff, your metrics, auditor, dude, you're crushing it. And I was like, bro, please, can we stop? Let's turn this off.
Yeah.
it was too much. But no, I do shy away from that a lot.
It's so interesting because in a way it's a paradox because you can get up on stage and have all of the attention on you or at least on your performance.
Mm,
But for me, what it's making me think of is that kid who was on a separate table from all the other kids in his class and might not feel deserving.
Yeah. Yeah. Massively. When I'm on stage, I am definitely a caricature of myself. I am the same person.
Yeah.
But that person on stage is a showman, the charm, the charisma, the effortlessness of doing this comedy thing. But as soon as I get off stage, I go back to being me in a sense of like, okay, cool. The show's done now. I definitely love meeting people that come to the show and say, hey, thanks for coming. But I also have to switch that on and hype myself up for that a little bit as well. But yeah, if anyone's ever come to my work in progresses, I now leave my shows as soon as I've come off stage. It's the thing that I love the most because I just like being home and just being, with like my girlfriend and the baby. Like, but I definitely want, if you ever see me walking through, I'm like, I just like, oh, hey, you're right. Hello, you're right. Cool. I just want to, I do find that quite hard a little bit sometimes.
What do your parents think of your success?
My mum loves it. I think my mum is living it with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Every time I'm on anything, my mum says, I watched you on this morning. You was good on that. Yeah. I'm watching my sing. I've got my snacks. And then my mum still asks me, she's like, so who is that then? And I'm like, Mum, I can't tell you.
In the Masked Singer.
Like, I can-ish, but I'm like, I know my mum wants to watch it and enjoy it. Hence why I'm like, I say, Mum, I can't tell you. You I'm not allowed,
And your dad?
I think my dad thought I would go more into sport because when I was young, probably I say young as a teenager, I really used to like football. And I kind of knew that I was like, I don't think I'll make it pro at this age. I'm 14. I thought I was always good, but I think he thought I may go more into that, but it never really materialized. So when I kind of told him, I was like, I'm doing this performing arts thing, he was a bit like, oh, okay, that's different. I didn't have that in, my Mo Gilligan son bingo card, but here we are.
You must be so grateful to them for many things, but particularly for being called Mo, because you have had so many puns for show names. Momentum, it's Mo time. Do you think you'll ever run out?
No. I'll be honest. At first, it was definitely. It's weird because the first tour was called Couple of Cans Tour, and that was only because of the character.
Yeah.
But for the special, the team at Netflix were like, yeah, we don't know if we can call this like Couple of Cans because there's a guy in Minnesota going to know this. And my Edinburgh show was actually going to be called Momentum. And I was like, let's just call it Momentum. And it was testament to the time where I was like building up this momentum. And it's quite interesting because whenever I name a new tour show, I'm like, Mo, in the moment, there's Mo to life. Monumental. I just sit in the car and I'm like, that's a tour. Like my manager was like, what are we calling this tour? And I was like, Mo, in the moment. There we go. That's the one. It's not mess around.
Well, Mo Gilligan, it has been such a pleasure spending these
so much.
moments with you. And that's why they don't pay me the big bucks. It really, really has. I've loved this conversation.
No, thank you so much. This has been such a fun, refreshing podcast to do. I've really, really enjoyed myself. So thanks for having me on.
Please do follow How to Fail to get new episodes as they land on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please tell all your friends. This is an Elizabeth Day and Sony Music Entertainment original podcast. Thank you so much for listening.